PSG are back-to-back UEFA Champions League winners as they beat Arsenal on penalties. Let's talk about it. Running a website sounds easy until you're dealing with blogs, pages, events, and about 10 different tabs open at the same time. That's why today's episode is sponsored by Odoo. Odoo lets you build your website, manage blogs, create events, and basically run everything in one place instead of switching between 5 different platforms. Honestly, it makes the whole process way smoother. If you are thinking about building your own website, blog, or project, check out Odoo using the link in the description below. If you want to start building your own website or brand online, you can check out Odoo in the description below and get started for yourself. And don't forget, guys, to like, share, and subscribe. Um, and there are potential upcoming events, like I said before, for the M1.com. However, what I would say, there will be updates, made in terms of the prices and so on, because when I obviously release the rules and regulations, so on, there's been obviously some confusion from a couple of number of people. So I'll try to obviously solve it and make it better, so that when everything is ready for the event, everybody should be happy to come to the events. Now let's get started. Let's start with the Champions League final. PSG against Arsenal. PSG win the Champions League against Arsenal. Back-to-back Champions League winners. Congratulations to Paris Saint-Germain. They've done it again, and they deserve to win the competition. They deserve to. Also, quick shout out to Odoo for sponsoring today's episode. I was literally updating the site earlier, and the blog event setup is ridiculously easy to use. Links below if you want to check it out. Anyway, back to the show. So, yeah, I mean, like you look at the whole game. Arsenal went 1-0 up with the goal from Kai Havertz, a brilliant finish. 1-0 up, very good goal. And Kai Havertz showed that once again he steps up in this kind of big occasions. He did it in Champions League final years ago with Chelsea, and now he did it again with Arsenal. 1-0 up, and you think like, oh, that's a big punch in the face for the PSG, especially earlier in the game. And Arsenal score 1-0 up. What Arsenal going to do now? Now they go on a lot very early. What they're going to do? Are they going to go on and trying to get the second goal, or will PSG respond? With pure motivation, and try to create a lot of chances, a lot of possession, and trying to score goals. And then after that, I think like PSG had a lot of possession. However, I would say I don't think they had many chances where Raya had to make a lot of saves. Yes, they had some chances here and there, but like I don't think a lot of them where David Raya had to make saves. I felt like Arsenal defensively they stifled the PSG attack. I felt like Arsenal's defense was very very strong. I felt like the game plan of Arteta and his players was very strong, very very good. Particularly first half where they defended very compact, very good against the PSG, who are, let's be honest, they're a better team technically in terms of quality than Arsenal. And I think Arsenal came up with a great plan. They defended very well and they made it very very hard for PSG, and the game plan of Arteta was looking very, very good. However, even though they set up with a low block, which I don't have a problem with, Arsenal, because let's not forget PSG are a better team than Arsenal. I felt like Arsenal should have, tried more in the attack. Like should have tested more in attack. Put more pressure, defensive wise in terms from PSG, because I felt like PSG in the first 10 minutes, I felt like defensively they were not great. I mean, Baccio and Marquinhos, they were vulnerable at the start, and it was kind of not so difficult to get at them. And I felt like Arsenal, in my opinion, let PSG let them have too much possession, and I felt like Arsenal should have, when they had the ball, when they win the ball, they should have taken that opportunity to try to counter attack, to try to to have that possession, but have that possession with purpose. Try to counter attack, try to attack after that, try to score from set pieces. But even in this game, I don't think they had a lot of set pieces. I think like they had like two or three or something like that. So I felt like they were, even though I cannot put too much blame on Arteta and his players for this defeat. Uh, because the PSG are a better team. I would say that I cannot, like I said, I cannot put too much blame on him. However, what I would say is that I felt like Arsenal and Arteta should have sensed more of the opportunity, should have sensed more blood on the defensive weakness of PSG, because I felt like they should have. Yeah, I felt like they didn't test them enough, in my opinion, indeed, defensive wise. Because I think like PSG in my opinion, they were there for the taking, especially if you look at the first 10 minutes. But I felt like Arsenal didn't create enough chances to try to punish PSG. But you have to look at PSG. I mean, PSG they had a lot of possession in the first half. They try to create chances, but it wasn't enough. They had some chances here and there, but not like chances where Ray had to make like big saves. Second half was quite similar as well. PSG have more possession, difficult to break down the low block of Arsenal, but trying to create chances, trying to fight the spaces to score, and then they got the penalty from a foul from Mosquera on Kvaratskhelia, where it was a penalty. I felt like Mosquera. I mean, he could have been sent off, especially because he was on a yellow for the time wasting. He could have got a red card, which is the reason why Arteta subbed him off after that and brought on Timber. Kvaratskhelia scored, and then Kvaratskhelia, won the penalty, and then Belly scored the penalty 1-1. And you think like, okay, PSG have the momentum now to go on and create more chances and get the second goal, and they have the momentum now. Now they've got the goal, and the momentum is with them. And now, you think like, okay, how Arsenal and Arteta going to respond? Are they going to start to attack now, or they're going to keep being defensive unless they try to play for penalties or whatever? And I felt like Arteta tried, they tried to go for the second goal, where there were one or two moments where they could have scored from, I think it was from a throw in, particularly from Gyökeres. He brought in the likes of Gyökeres, he brought in the likes of Eze, he brought in the likes of Madueke, he brought in the likes of Martinelli, and he tried to bring a couple of attackers to try to get that second goal against against PSG, and it could have worked because they had one or two chances, especially one of them from coming from a throw in, but it didn't work. And PSG, I don't think PSG were at their best, in my opinion. I think like they had a lot of possession. Yes, they were the better side. Yes, they better side. Sorry. Yes, they had a lot of possession. They had more control, a lot of control of the game. They had more chances, but I don't think like they were at their best. I think the attackers of PSG were not at their best as well. It wasn't a great performance for PSG, but at the same time, this kind of games in big finals, you have to win. And in this kind of big games, if you can win ugly, PSG have shown that they even when they're not at the best, they can win ugly. They showed against Bayern Munich away from home in the second leg, and in this game as well. And obviously, we'll talk about the penalties and so on. But 1-1. Okay, you go to extra time, and then there was a penalty shout that maybe should have gone in Arsenal's way. The foul from Nuno Mendes on Madueke. I mean, should have been a penalty. Yes, I think it should have been a penalty. I think so, because we've seen we've seen a couple of moments like that being given penalties before. I do think the referee should have had given Arsenal the penalty. But also, if I also remember, there was also a moment where there could have been a penalty to PSG in the first half. I think from the handball from Bukayo Saka. So I think generally the referee had a really poor game. Not only for it's not like he was favoring one club or whatever, as some people might say social media, but in general he had a really poor game. It could have been a penalty for PSG, and it could have been a penalty for Arsenal. It should have been a penalty, I think, from that foul from Nuno Mendes on Madueke. If you look at very closely, like he pulled him down. I mean, that's a penalty, and you can clearly understand why the frustrations from. You can clearly understand the frustrations from Declan Rice, from the other Arsenal players. You can understand the frustrations also from the Mikel Arteta. Obviously, he was given a yellow card. So yeah, because let's not, yes, I know people say, oh, but Arsenal making excuses, whatever. Yeah, but I mean, in this kind of games, you need a bit of luck, especially when in this kind of big games, Champions League finals, when the margins are very small. Well, one thing can cost the title. You need some things to go your way. You need a bit of luck, even though when you're at your best, you need a bit of luck. And PSG, I don't think they're at their best, but they managed to find a way to win. Because they had, obviously, if you asked Luis Enrique which one was more the sweetest win, this one or last year when they won 5-0 against Inter Milan, I think you would choose the win against Arsenal, because the Inter win last year was, in my opinion, was a bit too easy for them. But then you look at this one, they had to really work hard for it, and not only work hard for it, also for the whole season, where they had some struggles. Where obviously you win the Champions League, you're the defending champions. How are you going to do it? Are you going to win it again, or it's difficult to keep that level of consistency, especially in Champions League, where not many teams have won back-to-back Champions Leagues, except Real Madrid, of course. So yeah, and PSG, they were a better team, but I felt like they were not at their best. Arsenal, they defended well, and they came up with a very good game plan, and also they came up with a very good game plan, and they stifled Paris Saint Germain. However, I felt like Arsenal should have tested PSG more defensively. I felt like Arsenal didn't attack well enough. Because for example, when you have the ball, you don't like throw it. You don't just have the ball and throw it. Throw it for a throwing. You don't do that. You try to, when you have that possession, you have that possession for purpose. You don't have that possession just for the sake of it. You have that possession for purpose, to attack, to do something with it. And I felt like Arsenal, I think they gave too much possession to PSG. You look at the stats. I mean, 25% possession for Arsenal, 75% possession for PSG. Listen, I cannot put too much blame on Arteta and those Arsenal players, because let's not forget, I don't blame them coming up with a low block approach, and I don't blame them for setting up the way they did generally, because PSG are a better team. However, I felt like they should have tested. They should have had I think Arsenal fans would have liked to see a bit more of an attacking threat from Arsenal in this whole final than we saw. Um, so yeah, because I felt like Arsenal, maybe they were too defensive in my opinion. I think this one, if you look at this final generally, it kind of reminds is similar to the European Championship 2021 final between Italy and England, where England won 1-0 up very very early in the first 5 minutes, a goal from Luke Shaw, and they think like, okay, England gonna go on or not, and then for the rest of the game, England they came up with a very defensive approach, and they left too much possession for Italy. Italy had the momentum and they scored, and then after that they were the better team, and they managed to go on and win on penalties. This was a kind of a similar final, where Arsenal won 1-0 up very very early, and then they gave too much possession, too much time to PSG, and PSG had the momentum after that, and they scored, and then after that they win on penalties, and then generally they were also the better team in that match, just like Italy was in that final specifically. So yeah, and then you go to you penalties, like the penalty shootout. It's a toss of a coin. It's a toss of a coin. You need a bit of luck. Arsenal, they had a better goalkeeper. Before the penalty shootout, I thought to myself, okay, right, Arsenal have a better goalkeeper, Raya, because that's having from what I don't think he's that good, even though he's not been bad, but I don't think he's not Donnarumma. And then but you look at the penalty takers from Arsenal, not a lot of them are great. And Saka, he was subbed off also. Havertz was also subbed off also. Odegaard was subbed off also. So Trossard was subbed off also. Gyökeres. You look at the takers of Arsenal who could take good penalties are Gyökeres, Declan Rice. The others, you have doubts. So yeah, and then you go to penalty shootout and you look at Eze. I mean, very poor penalty, very, very poor penalty. I mean, why do you stutter like that? Why? Like, you don't need to over. What do you do that stuttering for? It's a bit useless. And it cost him in the end, and he missed the penalty. Nuno Mendes with a penalty, but David Raya saved it. Very good save. And then obviously the defining moment from Gabriel, which made Arsenal lose the Champions League final and PSG win their second Champions League in a row. Where obviously he skied it over the bar. He put it in the sky basically, and it was a very very bad penalty. But again, like, I don't think you could put too much blame on him, because at least he had the courage to take the penalty in his kind of, especially in a big pressurized moment like this in the Champions League final, where you don't want to let your team down in Champions League final. Also, he's been fantastic for Arsenal for the whole season. He was amazing for Arsenal in this final, and he was amazing for Arsenal for the whole season. Um, so if you say to me, which one of the players will, who's the least deserving guy of this kind of moment is this Gabriel, because he's been absolutely exceptional for us this season.